Hey guys, okay, here we are, part B of the taper attachment. Going to finish that up, get it installed on the machine. Got some before and after photos at the end of the video that I hope that you like. So next step after this will be getting the tubes in here, getting power on this thing, firing it up and seeing how it runs. Then we'll hit the tailstock and the steady rest and the follow rest, get those cleaned up and get them on, and also the compound. So I hope you enjoyed the video. Thanks. All right, so just fiddling around with this guy, trying to figure out who goes where. So according to the drawing, this piece with the milled out little notch or channel goes facing the outside, and we'll get those guys on like that. And we have a couple cap screws to hold that in place, 4 of them to be exact. And I verified that that this part right here, the movable bearing, is towards the machine. Again, verifying it with the drawing. I have found that going back to the disassembled 60-inch or 30-inch, that it wasn't always assembled correctly. So better off going back to the drawing. The other thing that I did was I put these guys on there. 2 different sizes. Thick one goes in the outer one, the thin one goes in the inner one, and we'll get the flathead screws in there momentarily. And then using these, I'll adjust the bearings so that they just touch. So we'll see when we go to put this thing on if we can actually get it on with that flat bar that comes from the cross slide. If I can get this thing up underneath there. There's some dowel pins here that may make manipulating it a little bit challenging, so we'll see. And then this guy threads on top, so there's a slot in this piece, and you'll see that later, that this fits on. So just for safekeeping, I'm going to put this right here. Just go through, just snug that up again. Okay. Then let me get the flatheads that hold these guys on. So we'll see, I painted both sides of this, so what I'm not sure about is, was there enough clearance? And it appears that there is. I was just a little bit concerned that paint buildup on the underside here would have interfered with this channel and it would have locked this thing down, so that doesn't seem to be a problem. I mean, obviously this isn't moving back and forth at high speed, it's just kind of keeping things lined up until you tighten down the the binding screw. There's one in this top piece right here, and that's what locks it down once you've made your adjustment, for the taper degree or whatever it is, thousandths per foot or something. There's also a bunch of way wipers that go on here that we have to put on. This part I'm not going to be able to put on until I get it onto the machine. So right here you can see we have this sort of slop that we have to deal with. So if you remember, this one right here is the fixed one, so we can turn this one to take that slop out by adjusting this. And then we'll adjust this one here. I'm not sure if there's like some sort of an alignment that you have to do so that as this thing slides back and forth, it, remains true. So maybe that's why they do this. There's one that's always fixed and the other ones have to remain, or this one remains always in the same place, and you adjust these other three to sort of give this, some adjustment. We'll figure it out when we put it all together, and we'll run a couple tests and see what we need to do to adjust it to make it true. So it feels a little bit tight right here. So we'll tweak it when we get it back on the machine. Let's see. We talked about this guy right here. I suppose I can actually put that on. And again, this is probably something that we need to zero this gear and zero this right here. And then when we put this guy on at 0, we should be in pretty good alignment. So let's see if that's what happens. So there you can see we swing this guy around and we can do our fine tuning. And again, let's just see how close we come to 0. So, not even close. I think it's close enough that if I moved it over one more tooth, it would be way off. So if there's anybody out there that has a lot of experience with these taper attachments, I'd love to know proper use. I did look in the Monarch book, in the operations manual, and it basically doesn't say anything about the about using the taper attachment, which I thought was sort of interesting. But they must figure that people who use these machines are highly intelligent life force with opposing thumbs, and they know how to use this stuff. So let's see. These guys. All right, so I'm going to leave these plates off, which let's see, they I think that they go like this. Okay, so I'll leave those off for now till we get this thing up on there. Okay, so now I'm figuring out what these grooves are in here. That groove that you see there is where this plate fits in. Always something interesting with these machines. All right, let's get over the lathe and see if we can install that. Okay, one thing I forgot, I had to come back. I carried this over to the lathe, went to put it on, then realized I forgot something, which is the way wipers. So let's get this situated in a way that I can get these way wipers on. So basically, I don't know if you can see that. Nope, you can't, so I'm going to have to readjust your location. All right, let's see here. Okay, so let's get these way wipers on. Again, here's the wipers called Wiper Slide. Got these from Monarch. Again, they weren't very expensive, a couple bucks. And I think they should fit perfectly, right? So let's see here. So something like that. Okay, and let me get the screws and we'll start getting these things put in. Okay, let's get these guys loaded up, get some screws in here. what I did with these, the retainers is I just ran them through the purple cleaner to get all the grunge off them, and then degreased them really well, and then wind up just throwing them into a bucket of coal bluing, just, you know, like black oxide. I have to get a longer shank screwdriver because it's a tight fit. All right, got a better screwdriver for the job. Let's get this in here. I think I'm gonna just drool some of this whey oil onto the wipers and let it soak in a bit. I'm guessing this all has to be manually lubricated because I don't remember seeing any path for oil to get over here from the... Actually, yep, that was pretty good. Okay. All right, so now we can get back to the lathe and see if we can't get this thing installed. All right, so experimenting around a little bit with this, I found that I can pull this all the way out, but it disengages the hand wheel from the keyway and the lead screw. So if you remember, I just tighten these by hand. So I will get this off of here. Okay. So now, if all goes according to plan, I can get that guy positioned in, engage the this feature into the lockdown thing. There's a nut that goes there. And let's see how that goes. So I should be able to do this, slide it right in. Okay. Oh, shucks. So I'm gonna have to take off the way wipers on these inside parts to be able to get the these screws in. All right. Well, it is what it is. Then we'll go back. We'll tighten these up. Remember, we left those loose, and then this guy goes right on here. And then we're gonna put this guy on here. And then this is where you put your little adjustable wrench to clamp down on this and lock your taper adjustment in place, I think, but we'll see what happens. All right, let me go get some tools to deal with this problem. Let's get this off of here. Hey folks, let me know what you think about this finish on the cross-slide base. Curious to see what people think generally. It's too bad that the thing got whacked by the chuck at some point. Pretty nasty little dings, but I've actually seen much worse on bigger lathes. And
can't even imagine what that sounds like. All right, let me go get an Allen wrenches for that. All right, let's see here. I'm gonna try and pull it in a little bit straighter so the dowel pins don't push out, because you see they're right there and they're press fit on both sides. So if it's not lined up, it's gonna push the pin out on this side, which we don't wanna have happen. It's not the worst thing. I mean, I have to go back and just tap it back in, but then it'll crack the paint. We have to go get a wrench and cut one down, because I'm not going to take this all apart to tighten these two bolts up. So I probably have some junky wrench. I can cut the end of it off. I'll be back. So what I do is I take all the like wrenches that Allen wrenches you find. Sometimes they're in kits to assemble some furniture or something like that. So I separate them by SAE and metric. So then I have them, and if I want to, cut them down and mess them up, they're usually just imported junk, although I see there's a couple Craftsman in here. I won't cut up a good one. So let me get the right size, and I'll cut it up, and then we'll get these tightened down. Okay, quick and dirty, cut. And then before we put the dust shields and chip trays in here, I'm not sure if it's a dust tray or chip shield, we'll just check the basic operation. I'll get the hand wheel back on, and let's see what we get. Okay, so this guy will go on here. Let's see if there's a better orientation one way or the other. Yep, looks like that way is the way it wants to be. We'll unscrew this guy. Let me go get some bolts for that. We'll figure out what we need for a spanner here to make that guy work. And then we'll get the hand wheel back in for the cross slide. All right, so let's get some stuff tightened up here. I got the hand wheel back in, and I just want to tighten up the base to it. Again, it doesn't need 200 foot-pounds, just needs to get snugged up. I'll keep after these, because like I mentioned before, they definitely tend to loosen. So I'm going to see where we're at with backlash. Remember, I was worried about that nut. I'll put the dial indicator on and see what we get. It's very little, so that's good. All right. If you remember, these screws down here on the underside of these guys I had left loose. So I'm going to tighten them for now. But these are the ones that are adjustable for the preload on those roller bearings that, or ball bearings that hold this guy straight. And what I think the purpose of, if you remember, this is a fixed one, and then these three are adjustable. So my guess is, you set this thing at 0, you run it through its travel, and you see how much it varies. And then you go back in with these, and you probably can grab a few thousandths, maybe more, to make sure that this is tracking true. So I'm not going to set that right now. I'll wait till I get the lathe running, and then we'll get that adjusted. And now, I'm speculating on that. There's nothing that I found anywhere that tells me that that's what has to happen. So if any of you 10EE experts are out in the world there, please give me a shout and let me know what you think, because I'm not 100% sure. I set this on here before, so just gonna crank that down. Remember I talked before, if you don't go straight, it's gonna push the pins up? Well, that's exactly what happened right there. So I'll go get the soft blow mallet and I'll tap it back down. Dead blow mallet, soft face dead blow, something like that. Okay. All right, a couple of taps. Okay. Got that down, no damage. Let's just see where we are with this. Okay. So, I guess once you get everything snug down, you just tighten that thing up. But we're gonna go do a little investigating to see how this thing works. So, spanner wrench. Let me go get that. All right, got those drill bits in there. You have to wash this because, you know, these drill bits are pretty brittle and, you know, you don't want to have them snap off. And if you hold them close down, you know, to the base, it's not terrible. Okay. All right, let's make sure that our cross slide works. Yep, sounds good. This works good. Now, I installed this rod here, and there's some kind of a clamp assembly that comes from over here and clamps onto this, and I think probably engages in some, what do you call it, these nuts here. If anybody out there has this part and can measure it for me, I've seen them once or twice on eBay for like $500. It's just a casting that kind of looks like it clamps around here. So I think it clamps here and then clamps onto this guy. So if somebody out there has one, they can measure it up and send those dimensions along. I'll just make one because, first of all, it'll be a fun project to make, and secondly, I'm just not going to spend $500 on that part for probably the 2 or 3 times that I'm going to use the taper attachment in a year. So hopefully one of you guys out there can hook us up and get those dimensions. I was talking to another fellow, Paul, who's interested in the 30-inch. The 30-inch is actually missing this rod and this piece. The rod is not a big deal, you know, and these little nuts are not a big deal, but he'll have to make that piece if he wants to use a taper attachment on that machine, or, you know, whoever ultimately does buy that machine. So anyway, that would be very helpful. All right, let's get some covers on here. So interesting, this is the same problem I had when I took it off. This was loose, which was why I was thinking that there might have been a felt wiper in there, because when I tightened it all the way down, it just was never tight. So the screws are too long. Now, I know these are the right screws because when I took this apart, I put the screws right back into the cross slide base there, and they are certainly the ones that I took out. So let's see what happens here. I'll just go either cut these off, or I might have some shorter ones that I can grab. All right, I found some 1/4 inch by 3/4 inch socket head cap screws, so these will work. All right, got these cap screws going in. Okay, all right, that's good. You got that on there. Now let's get these on here. And as you remember, there's a little slot in that part right there that these fit into. Got that? Okay. Actually, I had a guy ask me to measure these for him because his lathe was missing them. So hopefully he got the measurements I sent him and he was able to make himself a set. Okay. Well, that looks pretty nice. So let's come around to the front and let's mess around with that cross slide and see what kind of backlash we have. All right, so we'll try and use this Noga setup, magnetic base gizmo. Let's see if we can get this into a place where we can measure it. This is not traceable to the National Institute of Standards, so it's just going to be just sort of a rough kind of where are we at sort of thing. All right, so I don't know if you can see that dial, but let's get you closer so you can see that dial. All right, so let's get it on 0. And we're going to loosen the indicator dial here. I'm going to get that on 0. Okay, so we'd come up to 0 before this way. So we're at 0 and 0, and let's see where we go before we move. You saw that right there, so let's see. It looks to me about 6 thousandths. Let's try it again. So that's at 6 right there, and it just starts moving. So yeah, 6.5 maybe. Seven. Try it again. I'm going to say 6. You know what? I think that's actually pretty good. So we're going to leave it at that. Somebody has an idea about what it should be or what, is kind of generally acceptable, let me know. I don't think that's terribly out of line, but this really does work nice and smooth. So, all right, that'll do it for today. Thanks, guys. Appreciate it, and stay tuned. Next video is going to be putting the tubes in and getting some power up to this thing.